chloig fao scáil na DME seo pobl luúfortíocht agus falána. So we're here under the watchwords today of community, solidarity and well-being. So bhfuil an bhórtha fáilte a chur óga chuirde agus tá mé snúg mór leis an scanánsa a léirsú agus craoladh níomh och na hí na siúile. So we're delighted to be here to watch the film that Sonia Easpaig made back in 1998. And we're delighted to have some cameras here as well to tell us and give us an insight in that very transformative period in our history. Ach ar dúis ba bhailm cuire agus so go fáilte speisialta a chur roimh stailc Bik McFarlane, óglach Bik McFarlane, who we lost earlier in the year. We're very proud and privileged to have a family with us tonight. So I'd like to call up Elena and to present her with the jersey on behalf of Public During a Moment Never Done. Gur míle maith agat.
Glad that we went up and said
I think lads panicking in the background trying to fight me. Most bigger wheel of So we're the Tholan Scanonsal and review in the most the bit let's go to Kyle Kupla meal and we're honouring them tonight by returning to the 1981 and 1980 prison struggle and hunger strikes, one of the most transformative periods in our history. I was Anna Osser mar chuid sin so listed Laurence McKeown about himself, Jackie McMullan, Bert Easpaig, two former hunger strikers with us tonight. Séanna being an OC, no I found first Séanna, who was also an OC in the aftermath of the 1981 hunger strikes. So we're really privileged to have them with us here tonight, as well as the lovely Sonia van Gael and we're delighted to have Sonia here too, who was brave enough back in a time where there was heavy censorship, particularly in the southern state, regarding the long wars. We're really privileged to have Sonia here tonight, someone who was brave enough to stand up and challenge all types of establishment media to tell this really important story. So Greene maith agat Sonia as a Bilingual. So sorry, Greene, two step or see according before we start. I just want to draw your attention to Craig Native of Dohain. This is the newest branch of chlár na Gaeilge, and a bunch of young radical guys from Belfast recently set up Craig Native of Dohain. Again, in respect for leis in the public, the legends of the Republican struggle and the Republican movement. Agus ba bhailm cuire who is the Harlech Barclay and is the Vunahori na craoladh, one of the founders of the craoladh and to say cúpla focail Giolla. Gur mála go Harlech.
Díana Bacárte agus comrádacha. While I'm away to school in Chloig, as a bench was and ties with this gunner a Gillian Walsh. Mohing went to that grove, and not me short, burning, I'm sure I forgot the young or free needs in Arduino. This creep very new went to the country in Gilligan. Lonely had a mill first yet, Vessi Greene come on Gilligan, Orbert, well, I'm not speaking tiny here. Greene Orbert, who's a curl on Ken Sakar, or sneaks for Jillian. An nascú star, cúrailte ar an teanga agus an public tanhas, an nugtaí trí deimhachtaí cosol le seo reachta. Cé gur óbrint príomhatha agus eagraachtaí I gobrann son teanga mé firse, daithim muid gur gantaí son. Gantaí son agus gur rint daoine nach ó má bháil de príomhar bé, agus mar sin tá muid Greene chun fés an fíorsaí. Bhain siar ach Bhain Giolla ach siar. Trwy Gilligan ysgafig, go ffoil ahan mas yn pobl, glad yn much cos cemol drwy siarse, gag ffobl Gilligan galwyr, a sy'n peidir o'r son siarse na hynna. Mae'r ffobl sgwr boel yn y leg ar mwyth o gol leis na ffyrst yn rha dod yn y Gilligan, og siad yn nefyn na sasna, har yn cogi egsel a het sy'n mag. Trade skill na, agus ar y mwyn o rhaid. So het je maar. De next moment keer blijven. Aan ik maak ook zo hussie. Blijf op afjaar aan de treat schulden. Ook zij er bij woning. Al wat kan je first je. Bonds don't step give. Ook store de money. Is maar jou er dat wat in show. Wist dat shit. Ik sprak je doen before. Maar je bought die sounds. Guild hack de hogel. ga gaid an a bhmuid agus deantaí muid sin. Tí seo tá fé chéad chláithildan agus príomh nua bunaithe ar daoine ónán phobal, feic le an ollscoil, muintúirí agus bríoige. Bhí muid lethar an mórgil féilnig léigeann gcóin ba ceileoirí, bhí an phríomh bhartaíach an phobal san uachtar clínic agus muid ag takeíocht ar muinte amachtaí le lena eile. Bhí cruinneogaí me bheith amach agus ran muid lé ar an bhéid atá i ggéirí muinte amach mar phríomh de QR go tucking just on tossing so. The English isn't bigger right. Hello friends and comrades, I would like to thank you all for being here at this film, screening Giolla and Walsh. We felt there was no more fitting event to officially launch Greene take October. We're a new branch of Culinary Gaelic based in Belfast, which will work to develop and promote the Irish language in the city and beyond, while also highlighting the shared link in history between the language and republicanism through events like this. Although there are several branches and organisations working for the language in Belfast, we recognise the gap that some people were not members of any branch, so we aim to bring people together through activism. We act to achieve Padraig Pearse's vision: Ireland not only free, but Gaelic, not only Gaelic, but free. By spreading the Irish language widely among people, we take a step forward. Every word of Irish spoken is a bullet for Ireland's freedom. In closing, we would like all to thank the men and women who learned Irish while imprisoned by the British occupation during the various wars over the past century, who came out and began the Irish language revival movements by founding schools, organisations such as College and Firstja, Bonscon, Snail Give and Glóin. Because of them, we are here today and they continue to inspire us. As Bobby Sands said, build the Gaeltacht everywhere we are, and that's what we will do. So far, we have around 50 registered members and have established a new branch, including people from the community sector, university students, teachers and youth workers. We attended the Blue Bell Festival parade to celebrate community resistance in the Upper Springfields and surrounding areas, and we will support in several events during the festival. We held a meeting before tonight's event and discussed our goals as a branch. And as I said, one of the QR codes are currently in the
I'll just ask everybody to take out their phones, put them in a silent mode, please.
So, before career work finish, the Sonia, I'll give an invitation to Sonia to say a couple of fucking maybe for some context before the film. We'll have a pitch like a very real discussion in a year, agus like foiled through over fun. We're good to roll, there's a couple of fucking roles, so you'll all be more than welcome to participate in the question and answer later on. After this, the one foiled to more than for Red Sonia, so we would like to step this up.
Ní bhaideh agus foiilte has a dúnear an ggó seo a has fan ríist éis na níalta fada agus bhí se na frogleid agus in na anar dúsa gur tugadh na haglah seo dú nar rinneid tafadáthú ar Laurence agus Jackie agus Leo agus Bik agus Mary Doyle ag an am chumáid le scéal na ré a chuir trasna ach níor formid iste in San Clair Shere. So you're all very welcome, and I'm delighted that after 28 years so that this film has got another lease of life here, and it's to me it was the first documentary that I produced and directed, and it was the most important and the one that I'm most proud of in my life and my career. So I hope you all, I'm not sure enjoy is the word, but I hope you all appreciate the documentary and enjoy, I suppose, the story and the interviews. That it's a lot to take in, but I think it's
Had is féidir ráníos gnáin mar sin bhí sé dochreachta tá chu sé go mór bhaimar agus ní minic a bhí mar as na focail ach tá bhí láthir. You know, it's not often everything speechless, but it was just an incredible insight into such an important period in our history. So Greene with Sonia, I'll say very fine. Agus ar gáid is ar gomráide is tóga níor ballum gan an diseo hapú agus buchas a gáileh asca a dhéanamh ar san tíir sin na tíir agus as go nachfuil míad go máis na bhacha gáil orintanta ach tá sé go dégad sibh go bhfuil daoine óga fud fad na hhéireann Thar buich na gafail ar a dhéanamh agus go gcuoinnig míidir so beidir go snóid amach min start na féin Sonia nuair mis leat agus be sé seo dá angah faúla camaraí idirnáisiúntas is luú, we have a few international cameras with us in the audience as well, so then we'll be going code valor thing, bit of code switching. But Sonia, beidir go leir ófáling ar dús mar sin, so ban gael sa tú féin. Cad a sprág tú an scoláin seo ar le chéile go háirithe sa chóthaigh son, so chuir go maith é néidir nó go hocht. Ceir bliana in section 31. So I'm asking Sonia, the context of this time, the film was put out in 1998, 4 years after what we call section 31. And for those of the audience who might refer to our international families, for example, section 31 was basically a piece of government legislation from the south that banned and, I suppose, enforced censorship on the Republican movement in southern media. And obviously you're the same coming from Britain. So I think it was a really brave move by Sonia to challenge that norm and to platform these voices. So how the spread to Sonia?
Well, we just ran Jacker Lord. Well, I'm cool a bhí up in Héan, mar bhí Chilum sa prísom na Sasan. So so as could you go over the tríidir beandís sin na lein the series we been got trust and leis na so mar sin an cura bhí up in Héan agus stair na tíre agus ahanrad ach mar is rudínta siampíar bhai is sprach ma le seo dhéanamh ná chasma le Laurence actually bhí sé granar mar le tú níor chéad ag poblacht Tanny Lorch agus bhí me gobar le far inta dar bhainnim rúna maci bhui bhí chlár sa gahéige agus bhí me gcónaí ag Jenny Dhearcht balla el le bu so bhín Héan horror in there agus bhí mai bhí Laurence agus sé taréis nóir an ormigí sar mai teim a thuirtma agus bhí me sin mar taidir an chlár so bhí me seag rógan you know is ten leor seo fáiltí acu so was fáiltí iad agus you know beidir bíon dóirí se agus go leorí sin so they're going sin smíte mai hanig Laurence is seag sin nebhar asma leis agus ar a chaisiil am dúirte an bhil tú muinte do an sé tegus bhí córa bhíonn sin seaartan in the Asian chaim is mar fást marall ar an aglaú sin agus ag an rud sfér a hála a bhíon mar buime a dro televis an éit radio agus hasma le Laurence sin na hartfa séí in the Asian ag féle scamíart na galibh trí hampist agus ag an lóin bhí se bhaistí túmhaí agus bhí Jimmy Lowen used to share or while a cup of coffee was to know to my Gary Hoff and shúile. So question, you know, it's like trifle wearing the law with it. Scarby, do my shawel, how much you know, do my ramish mall at human chart. San Michelle was the mission. Jimmy should look for that to my question this, you know, was their chat. Came off festival album, near a time I stay at and chat. Go on that able to show Mohanshin, our big terminal. Agus nach stoppi den ar bí mé. Agus gfáil tinge a bhémar agus ag an poite sin just dúirt le Laurence. Caiimiid na scealtaí seo ar síos, caiimiid seo a hafad, caiimiid. So bhí muid gargar an pictar mór ach an sin háisiimiid ag chur síos an mná daoine agus ar náid mar an duine is smó a bhí muid ag geirí ascéal a chur síos ná Bik McFarlane. Brendan. So chasmid le Bik bhí sé muoithar parol agus chasmid le leis dóhaid féile an phobal seolaí the hot feel on football, agus when we says in Gordlish, agus Laurence Sonia, she get ugly and a agus they're could where they're ugly and a lot. I guess shots for your mother and the slur band, you go I'd be my show, because he that chumbled to do that show, because so harsh must go lay, just that, you know, not an ugly long, but Jan ugly let the net. Marhakla siúle maha seo agus hokla bus tú wedu agus an stair fáda tastíonn sin níl bheith se caitegan. So, when my sis Easpaig got like Laurence and sin that maybe she dan was a general long, but couple of nation there church marashig having she rashig is there okay to shan on the had live show any. So for which ni mishala stúr don chlár ac dúrlum féin farsio ac nar lor me leis níor bhí me gur bhú sé gart so dúr me dhéanam mé héna rin mé cursa in sin dá dúdras na gaeltachta agus for me Báis chlár ag an jeirú le Jamila de Jótas agus in sin me TG Care agus ba cael gôn a bhí gceannas TG Care ag an ná agus tógu cael le Bik in our doing agus nuair a bhfuil se na daoine a bhí agan just thug sé an takeíocht. A gcuideach do míal bhalaí a tháinig an táhacht a bhí leis an chléir seo agus sílim gur sin an rud a d'éirthe sa máin sa tíir seo nuair a tháinig TG agus TG Care isteach san gceist ní ró éitir bhí chlár an cíneann seo scéal inse agus níor daoine craoladh go leor leis sin dhéanamh agus rudí peint a táhachta ba cael gôn far mór le réig an am se gceannas ar TG Care agus sin an róla bhéige ach sulla deaim me se seagadtí le na hagla bhíananig chuir se scarteam meg so se ever fón pásanta de agus dúirte seo na haglah is deapra dhéanaí tú a d híal agus dúirte mátá tú geirí Lord le an airbí in dhé chuir scarteam le náithe. So sílim an rud fan chléir seo agus an rud a taithó speisialta fi an ná gurú na daoine carta tí bhéirda. Ní me sé bhain mu le agus gurú cael gón sin go bhí ha málaíonn sin gurú na daoine a dabar a rinne fuam agus léhéid a siad sin bhí siad sin ar an cúrsail as cí dúirdífa as fear an fear a rinne guthú ar an chléir ba cáar agus bhí an cúlra cear na aici sin, so is cían le teart le dhéile mar sílim gur rud éite táhachta agus inar ire go Giolla is an chléir is mó a tá me se brada faoi agus teas gom níl rudidir bhí a hocailm a dhéanú go táhachta leis sílim agus tá méid a brada gohhain sin agus an rud mar rinneimiid na hagla bhingéalaigh ar dús ach rinneimiid na hagla a marla fásta agus ha dearmid rudidir bhí le na hagla sin riamh dus féin leabhí sláda so ach tá sé dogan agus beidh Giolla agus inis le Bik ar an drábhar a míomhain tá scéal sa gceann sin do na héile agus dá daoine yoga in sa páirteach so
agus ar fad Sonia agus bhfuil is go beidir go réid cúpla focail a féirla chuma or dín sé ceisna úta chuid faoi na meán gaeilge an túil eile sin that raises huge questions about the potential for Irish language media to give another perspective on what's going on in the world. And I think, as Sonia said, there's very little other broadcasters or media stations that would have actually been happy to support this, whereas Bilingual television was the big nerve getting involved like
yeah, no, it was, and I think that's kind of what gave me the opportunity to pursue this and to understand that I had their backing, and I suppose initially when I started kind of talking to people in the media, they were saying, "Oh, I had produced a few documentaries at that stage, but I hadn't directed anything," and they had said to me, "Oh, you need to get this director. He was doing all the big documentaries in the country and that. And I met him and went through with him in the initial meeting. He was like, oh, that's a fantastic story and I can't believe you're getting these interviews. And then in the next meeting, I actually met him in a pub, and I was driving, so I wasn't drinking, but he had a few drinks. And then he started to say, well, you need balance and you need this and you need that. So I kind of decided there and then on the drive back to Dublin, I said, right, okay, I think I better direct this myself. And you can't just say here, you know, that it was too important a documentary to be treated like a documentary, because it wasn't actually just a documentary. It was, you know, an important document of a time in history that hadn't been documented before. And, you know, to be given that privilege of sitting in front of all of the participants, and also to say that Mary Doyle was a part of this as well, because we wanted to bring in the Armagh, the women's struggle as well. But in the end, when we were cutting it down, I mean, there's the interviews, if I remember, were about an hour and a half each, and you have to condense it down to like 50 minutes, and, you know, give breathers and that. So we just decided that we would make it just the hunger strikes in 1980 and 1981, and as well, the interviews were very, very difficult. Like, I mean, I think at the end of every single interview that everybody in the group was crying, and, you know, I think the emotion of it being maybe the first time that those stories had been revisited by Laurence and Jackie and Leo and Bik and Mary, you know, that was difficult as well. But, you know, as I said in Irish, I don't think there's a programme that I've made that I'm more proud of, and, you know, and in a technical kind of way, it's funny, because at that time, you know, we didn't have the internet, or we didn't have access to archives or stuff, so you were like getting photographs of people and old posters. And afterwards, I have a great collection at home now. Afterwards, people came and were like, here's this, you know, and there was some French producer, and he sent the archive at the start and of the funerals, and he kindly donated that to us as well, you know. But going through it, and it's something that would never even be allowed to be made, is to allow people to sit on screen and to see their faces and to watch their emotion. And you know, I think to me that makes it a kind of a special documentary as well, because we tend to now cover everything and put music under it, and, you know, yeah, where it's lovely to see their faces. But no, very, very proud of this documentary, and glad that we have it as a document for the future.
Alright, folks, we van going to fake, leave it to going to come in my agus so go make in the fire minute lads perfect the focal. So again, going back to that context of so good now the Club the kind of hostile environment towards republicanism. Obviously in the aftermath of 1981, the will of the Irish people was with the hunger strikers, and the prison struggle gone out of fi gnéthe le so go oias go hora a bhí now the go fáil caithfidh go raibh misneach le gceist. Like, you must need great confidence and trust in this process. On bhapa his díobh gur deis a bhí out, did you think and see this as an opportunity to kind of reclaim the narrative and tell your own story? No one read Irish, were you still a bit sceptical of taking this big step to solve it?
Big step, yeah, still in the back of my mind.
Sinead?
No, maybe, you know, we're soon, you know, for us in the war in my glory, when I get out of jail there, when I said, well, you're still in struggle, all right, you know, you're still very much in struggle, you know, so it's just many items. Don't go all over okay, you know, right. Okay. So, well, I suppose you did have the living at was an opportunity, the story needed to be told. Story from both inside the jail and outside the jail, you know. Because I always think, you know, mothers and families went through 10 times what we went through. So, it was an opportunity. Sonia was brilliant. That was Jackie on in the early from Warwick. So, need more than Kevney Agamar or Easpaig or something in the studio, you know, like Johnny and that really ask, I think they got chlár, come on the line, and then the other ones in the other two, Giolla made them one.
We should go check a hit to go Laurence, give your thought. Decent, fast food and all, like a school, money make, I give, and Laurence, I guess. What does it bring?
Annig gacroil ceann na rud atá rá. Мен David Sheeser prison féin Jarky Rowan gafa leis an indicus, chlár indicus. Na ar scéal héan scríb, ar star héan scríb, ní bheith aon eile scríb, ní bheith sé ancient, mar bheith Séanna, so mar gurs Jackie, scríb ar síl, an struggled, ag láin in ar eye, ní Jarky leis bit seo slí eile on landed leis and just get the last started. I mean, I do think for in terms of Sonia, I think for someone who was very young at the time, that's we were too all day. Just that starting out on a career in filmmaking, this wasn't the one that you wanted to do. And she said, I don't know what people call it. She had done an interview with me and Roddy when we dealt with it, and we delivered some cert because she did it. So if you want to go down the road of prosperity and fame and get job offers, you don't go down Slay Shaw, so massive respect. And then the Daniela, having like Giolla, like Springfield, run our usage as Mary Lyons is good. Showing off how he nor tossing to a run because of each three, young But she didn't yell well scéal and show scéal tá of us the didn't on not well on party get up in not well on field up in it sort of encourages her to just pump in the arm and say no, fuck it, let's do this. That's John got Ireland like when Sonia Cursa on Feldmar Stewart over and then we're in Shin Fish Alba. You want to get away on show, you know, it was the thing chipping in, like, with it, no money involved around there. But so Jerry, I was heard about Gal going, I was making one money, like, the very RTE, Johnny, or merchant, they merchant. They did shoot, on the dish, they should have ordered balance, you know. And so, okay, that's it's scary if we install uprish, it's not a hard but it's scale tape here, Joe, the production. It's cost so look at big boy. Feel like a one, but it's didn't chapter kill it, well, let's do this. And Sean and Roger go football show, no brothers, you know, Davis Housing, Robertson, people raw, Corey Jerry, Ledge Flats, Tommy Tom, you know, or Chica Hill, like there's where else in the world that working class people have that sort of confidence to do it. No, I mean more us like one like I've always said that the audacity was to have the idea of the communities. But just take a rough block and hold it and then just ready to come here. Like that's like, and it's an important message, it's thinking outside the box. Because at that time they're all in like in Davis sheet and box so maybe chuckle, more thing and me and Ballin whatever, but like féin when McCullis are already Mario, it was in the other, but yeah, there's walls. Within the wall there's a gate, and on the gate goes a lock, the key, and the person who does that key is a human being, has to be not very strong enough. That's what you think of art, or disciplined enough. You know, and that's to be kept as more on stop operation, you know, on the other road, the chéad run, not smoothly, but you're going to enjoy on it. Okay. Jim Martin, I that Dini Yalla, I was a blank over, was my thought always young, successful,
Yeah. For me, stuff like this, the Pat Sheehan spoke recently at the unveiling of the statue that was done in Clonbrook. Was bhí sé ragar a bheith an stailc ocrais agus Bháis Bobby and scéal is smó ar fud an dóin ar an lábhar Bobby Bháis, right? And that story is not out there. And for me, a gcónaí ahanrod a dheanmuid leis na mine, yeah? Caithmuid ar scéal íon ancient, but ní muid ag ancient scéal song na híon. It's not for us, it's for our children and our children's children and all the rest of the young people out there who never knew anything about this. And so my working tour in na man Commerciaja and lá tá new on Dúirt Lorna Anfield, this program probably wouldn't be made today. By RTA, by TG Carter. And because the way things move and change and within these organisations and within society, agus and mion agal and RTE, O'Heave and Falstein, you know, like they are refusing to tell the story of Palestine, and everything they say about Palestine has to be balanced with. No Israeli say this. You know, so sin mar a bhí sé doing, agus sin mar a bheith sé leis an coshaintear a gcónaí bei siad ag ancient scéal sacu ó a dhearcú hín.
No, sin ag dear féin agus screenwrite céine love myself, Sonia were chatting about the same earlier, and I don't think we should underestimate as well how necessary documentaries like this are enough. But let's cut again, coming from a perspective of a 27-year-old now coming from Cork, we're not taught these stories. Like, it's up to you as an adult to actually go and read the history books and learn about it. Like, I would have grown up hearing terms about the new IRA and the old IRA and all this crap, and I remember even as a teenager being like, what the hell is the difference between the new IRA and the old IRA? Do you know what I mean? But there's a lot of people, particularly in the South, who aren't aware of the extent of our revolutionary history and how recent it is. Like, again, I still kind of, like, again, not to marry you, but I still get a bit starstruck chatting to the likes of you, because I'm like, these are such history makers, like, do you know what I mean? And it's such a privilege. Again, I just know they're dying now at my degree. But it has to be said, like, do you know, because there's such a rich history there. And I don't think we should take for granted that everybody, especially the young generation in the South, to no fault of their own, or perhaps even not to the fault of their parents or community, they're just not taught it. Like, so we need to be able to look for those active opportunities to share it. So we reached my way to that Sonia. Chéad Giolla Martin, Liscuts in Néidir Gach Féin, 1981, the Glúis Salvor in David, there was a huge movement on the outside in support of the prisoners in the prison struggle. And that being Insíonn, we look 40 years later, we see 20,000 young Gaels, they're surrounded a bail first, demanding language rights in the occupied counties and demanding cultural freedom. Tá mé fistrach an bhecanseamh nasc idir an glúnóg the Gaelgóirí of agus for Strathnatain, here's law. So, Asperle, do you see a link between your struggle in 1981 and the prison struggle and today's generation of young Irish language activists who are campaigning for language rights and cultural freedom in the occupied six Kermai?
You've seen on RTI by the whole drop tower thing. Very exciting. I think it's a great movement and unbelievable transformation that has taken place since we get out of jail. In terms of the Irish language, the advancement of the Irish language, and my friends come up from Cork to Dublin, etc., and they're blown away by how much Irish there is in West Belfast. West Belfast especially, I'm especially proud of West Belfast, through both struggles, or through but I do see, like, you know, many of those young people are the sons and daughters of people who were involved in the struggle of the 70s and 80s.
Grandchildren, right?
Speak for yourself. No, I do find a wee bit more like the Daisy Club, you know. Well, maybe going to protest, maybe not.
Well, no, well, in with Jackie, I grew up on Giolla knew what the works here were the made the nation, I think, you know, and confidence of them. They can nurture the pages were King Velo, but the confidence young people have today, organise and publicly speak, it's just phenomenal. But like, well, face education of couple of in European chlár shúile, some confidence. There was no Lorna in chlár shúile, but they make grab on last year or in chéad the plan of grow make a chlár we're all made tigers or a couple of my heroes. First time was at conference. This is one that was organised by Long Kesh a couple of years ago. And Russian was it. I heard two of my heroes mentioned, Paulo Ferrari and France Manon. I think that's the one thing that is not, you know, the language is a narrow nationalistic Irish. It's seen in an international context. And what is that? There's all, and Russian, well, that Dini, August, no, Dini is the fastest. Was a, no, Jim Jargon. Not well, I mentioned collaboration, status quo, whatever the status quo is. Whether it's Irish language rights, whether it's gay rights, whether it's whatever else, immigrants, whatever else. Like, well, we'll say Jonathan Fion him, we'll say the gay question, you know, English, man conversation, but that's it all of that. Orca up and run, obviously, Sean kind of Thomas and Johnny, and that's it. The wonderful thing that it's so tell us any towards Sophie. It's a sleep piano, what was a whole Guinea Sophie doing?
So rud of wine August better to make my latest on cat schoolie as an Wallen show. But one sort of lesson we learned in the jails was that we would have drawn up a list of demands. And it's an email words for dude and strapples near the which are influenced from my words for dude and treasure and the Asia. So we would have a list of demands and we would go out and would fight and we would achieve these demands. As soon as we got one thing, we drew up another list of demands. and we would draw up another list of demands and we shouldn't say that Martian than China. And graduates, and permanent graduates, come on, just got to kind of call it was a call, who is, I would have said, when some happened, around that, getting killed by all. It's some, what more thirds are they? Feed the crap at it, and no people.
What do you want here? Sonia?
Well, Martin was Johnny Taffler and John Jericho, Hashish of the fact the show is just more huge. Alan and show you know, there are comes this year or the BMTV which was in show is coming on line flag out and cultural I guess which we can unite the assassin chart PG save the children I guess where charter or gar trasna the mural more toward tapping at the man's called first to when you should have told arrogant defect. I guess we bus on one la modular trasna she don't grow car and John Boy so lame than you shot. I guess Russian bus she's so mural back and charter over that and sure things in Murphy because hover the word with Jamal Bio there is which of the share the edition because the fact the city of not first to because they're running into or learn the ranch and like the more humility Georgia Farag, you know, just Nyal Fakal though. I was Nyal Fakal Nyal's coming digging, you know, some Gaeltacht ski door. agus tá sé ínta agus tá daoine ínta an sin go bhfuir son an teanga tá sé de friúlann seo agus nealasaban agus an dóithar le garantóir an bhí cónaí airne garantóir bheith nuíontaí an obair a tuideach acuún sin ar son an teanga agus is an tíosá ganis is ag teach den níos gahénta agus tan tauhí gomáin agus é in a lá.
So you're saying there's going to be a documentary for Jam Derek?
Yeah, we've done it.
So beidir ceisiar mar chuir is ar na slóimiid mátá time. So Gaelic Secuig, we're still to end the connection with Britain, still need cultural, political and economic freedom. Tá crave nídig go do hain sa nacht na dí óga tá public glory na móna agus just sá daine úntacha hartíblir so céim tachtar the thuirg sibh doin gona gur féidir linn na sprupla sin ar fáil baintach agus céim cóir de chuirg sibh ar dí óga go háir. What advice would you give to young people to end that connection with Britain and bring about political, cultural, economic freedom? No biggie.
Well, there was a session of not telling young people what I think they should do. I think I'll be loved it when someone had to try to tell me when I was 17. Well, I think we'll get short shrift. Well, I think there's a difference. I mean, I've met what I've shown people who are much older, probably who had a very young spirit about them and had great experience to pass on. And I met some young people who are more conservative than Maggie Thatcher. You know, so it's not just age that comes in it, it's about politics. I suppose I've just said them that people should believe in themselves, they should cast about. It's not just the one story, there's other stories, there's other sides of it. You know, join in the uncomfortable conversations, go into the uncomfortable spaces. Like we're just speaking to everyone all the time and we never grow. You know, just in the same. You should be able to go into a room where we're telling you a line with their words, but then a day come out of it. And maybe that someone throws something up, you go, like, what, I haven't thought of it before. We'll have to get the thing and have one here to overcome that. So it's just about being thoughtful, it's about being and doing it all with and I think our people in general are younger in a gentle manner. I mean, it's shared up ours out to be a cliche, but don't fight revolutions out of anger, then for love for people. Be angry at the oppression, be angry at the occupation, be angry at what's done to people. But anger isn't enough to carry you through to that vision of something. So it's about have the difficult conversation, have a difficult business, and then get into it, and it's going to require effort, it's required commitment. But then it's a joy of seeing that they're achieving something and they're working with great people along the way.
Well, Lauren, my grandmother used to always say to us, she used to buy every single paper across the board and on the same day as Lawrence, and she would be buying these papers that we'd go, why are you buying that, and she would read everything way back before, and she just said it was always important to know the whole full picture. But I think, there's an amazing youth coming through. There's tan teanga, tan strailc or some teanga gallery go fáil agus sílam go jockey ahan rud the réir chéile agus leis na daoine atá inseo ag chur ahan rud an tasí go se saoil se go leor.
I don't want to sound like a baby here, but all I need is love. See, tá mé níl tá burtha fa dúla cursaí na monster sopa. Agus a dói ana bhfuil fua agus mar dúirt lorna fua agus farag and sa gaharatha leis an láta yes. Tá siad just díirithe gangan a géirí rudaí a chothú and some coshainse agus a mosque na grúpaí ar an tálaí an támar fád. Tá sí díirithe tá benabach agus totally hateful. So capping which go hon tosi ná le don fua golasteach at the grade kai to na shúile canal ar an dush more ar an keep your eyes on the prize, and the prize is an independence was just recovered, so kind of kind
Very good. And I think it came through there was determination. So that's a big part of it. And also, I often think morale. We all have an obligation to contribute to the morale. Avoid doom and gloom merchants. You know, you only ever get through struggle with a positive outlook. And H blacks for me was a perfect example of it. You know, there's other people in here around the blacks. Morale, generally speaking, was great, and everybody knew they had to contribute to the morale. You know,
Yeah.
rather than fuck this is awful.
We've got Greene amalgam coide. Well, I'm going to cook fest. No, and if I so, any of you have any questions, remarks? Are you all stunned to silence? Get through.
Anyone?
Oh no.
Anyone? Before he gets on the plane.
My name is Kali Kuno, and I have more of a technical question, but it's for educational purposes. I remember I was 10, 11 years old, and my mother in particular was following the news as best she could, you know, from Los Angeles TV set, filtered through U.S. media, filtered through British media. But you know, there was left-wing papers, our own papers, where there was more accurate information. So this brings back a lot of memories. And I'm sitting here mad that the story of our political prisoners, we haven't documented this well, you know, in the United States. And just in the last 4 years, you know, we've lost Matulu Shakur. We've lost about 5 or 6, I won't name them all, political prisoners. Darula bin Wahad is facing terminal cancer right now. Even though there's a documentary about him, it was made in 1992, 93, shortly after he got out. And outside of, I mentioned Matulu because he's tied to Tupac Shakur, not many of our younger generation really know about these struggles and how they were connected. So I'm wondering, how do I get a hold, or is it possible to get a hold of this film to show it to folks in our community?
Absolutely, yeah. Just if somebody has your details, yeah, 100%. There's just get in touch with me and I can send it over to you. And Fergal can sort it out, and we have other films as well. I think we did one with Séanna, which was the history of Long Kesh as well. So that's the kind of overview that I can send. And there's a great thing here in Ireland, and maybe one good thing with Greene is that for program makers, after 5 years, the copyright comes back to us. So we can share it with whoever we want, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Michelle?
Gurmlí mí an go subsmeding bhí sin gur pat éidir an bhaiste agus scéal bhaiste Is as Kirby mé costal erosion, so she costal erosion. I didn't get an education that taught me enough about this, and since moving to Belfast, it's been honestly the biggest honour to be among you. But on Kesh the album now, so Louis John Daw have den scéal since two sides of the story. There's a lot of talk in the north at the moment about like a museum and the possibility of creating a museum that would tell. I mean, how can you tell both sides in one museum and keep anyone happy? But I was just wondering what you thought of. I know in Spain and Germany there's a lot of talks of memory law and things like that, and how can you tell a story as complicated that's still falling and still happening today in just a museum or in one kind of story? Is it even possible, or is it fair to put it into one building or one place? That's a very complicated question, Sarah.
Well, yeah, you're talking about the project in the city centre. I've gone to Laurence with the, what was it, Belfast Stories in Clogshire.
Yeah, so I think we like they
Well, one of the things that I can't tell you about is that it ran in the sand because of the DUP. But when we were working on the MLK project, what they called the Maze Long Kesh stuff, come on, Chin. I was with Kesh at the time, and I was one of this sort of large group who were talking about what comes in to Long Kesh. And the way they were saying was, you know, if you're going to include the Republican prisoners and their story, which has to, like that is the story of Long Kesh as far as we're concerned, but there's also a loyalist story. And I'd be happy enough for the loyalists to tell their, within the confines of you know, or the context of that period and how they saw it. And then you would have the prison warders telling their story. But one of the things that I asked for at the time was that there should be a story about the British Army in Long Kesh, simply because of the fact that there were thousands of British soldiers stationed in a prison, you know, which makes a nonsense of this idea of these guys are ordinary prisoners or they're criminals. There were thousands of Brits stationed there. So if that's the case, you know, they're making the political prisoner case for you right away. However, you know, I think you have to be able to do it in that way that interact. You know, you have any amount of ways of doing things now with interactive panels and stuff like that people can talk to you, and you're not going to get agreement, but at least you'll have a platform whereby the Republican story can be told to anybody who wants to hear it. You know, that's so really my shin. I got any my shin.
I think there's a big difference between multiple stories, and I think that should be encouraged, as opposed to what the Brits at the moment are saying they're going to write the history. That's a different thing totally. That's the thing, and this is what happened when there was the bad guys and there was the good guys. Other people telling their stories. I mean, there's a project, the Prison Memory Archive, which Callum McLaughlin did, which is brilliantly done because they were in the jail with you, and we picked the ones who were going to do it to cover all the different areas. But you just had a camera on you and you said whatever you wanted to say, that your experience. So you had OU tutors, Open University tutors, you had, you know, chaplains, you had visitors, you had loyalists, and whatever. So like for the ordinary person gets to watch it, like doesn't know anything, but then I think they want to get all the views, and then they decide which ones, well, who has a real story to tell about the place. So I don't think there's anything wrong with multiple stories, as long as they're authentic, that's all I need. But it's when someone says, no, but now we're going to pick the ones that fit the narrative that we want to put across. That's where the problem arises.
I think you're talking about two sides. You need also to decide, you know, what are the two sides. Because too often here, they present, and the British have done this historically, they present the two sides as loyalists, Republicans, Protestants, Catholics. Two sides, if there are two sides, and there are not more than two sides. Or the Irish people who've been oppressed by the British for thousands of years, the other side is the British. They need to explain what they've been doing. If there's two sides to this story, let them explain what's going on in the cabinet, who's making decisions up there. So we shouldn't fall into this thing with the two sides and the loyalists tell theirs and the honest tell theirs, and we forget the crowd who are manipulating all around the place. What's their side of it, and the best point to think where that should be.
in gCillín. We'll find compare.
Before
David Stark,
We are running slightly late, but as Bik McFarlane used to say, music runs on Republican time, fuck all else. Folks, this week's song Bik wrote along with Songboy Loudon on the 10th anniversary of Bobby Sands Day on Hunger Streak. So there's no words that somebody's done at all. Doesn't seem quite so long ago. Oh, the last time that I saw you, if only had the memories grow. It seems they always fall around you. They try to break you in a living hell. But they could not find a way. So they killed you in a H-block cell. Hope they all would turn away. If all your spirit would rise again, but you dare to prove them wrong. Oh, while in there, you told away the chains. Let the world freedom song. Oh, yeah, the heartache campaign. Your road is still here. Oh, it's so long since you've gone. Oh, stronger night, you showed us how freedom's fight can be over. But there was an easy road to choose, to bring this heartache to an end. Easy roads are always sure to lose. I've seen it time and time again. If you can't stand by me like yesterday, I'll find the strength to carry on. So
let your spirit shine along the way. And our day will surely come. Oh, yet the heartache and the pain lingers on. It's still here, though it's so long since you've gone. But a stronger night may show us high. The Easpaig will be warm if we all stand as one. Postbericht van Bik McFarlane, Long Kesh, Scéal, Sonia, Giolla, Séanna,